Hello everyone, this is Vinay here again from Learn Coding with Vinay. In this video we will look into the SQL COALESCE function. To summarize, in this video we will go over practical examples, four interesting use cases of COALESCE, difference between ISNULL and COALESCE, and at the end there will be a tip that you once as a SQL developer it will be very helpful to you guys. So let's jump into the video and let's look at the examples. So if you see over here, I have taken three tables: a role table, a user table, and a u- uh, and a user role table, right? So basically we have roles, user and user role tables, right? If I go ahead and run this, then what do we have? We have role, we have users, and we have user role. So basically this shows which user has which role, right? And in the user role table I have kept purposely few value null and few not null. For example, if you see this data, so we have user table with full name, email, mobile, password. Ideally this password should be encrypted, but I have kept it, for keep the example simple, I have kept it text only, right? And let's consider that in our application user can log in using either email or mobile, so both has to be null, right? So if you see the table definition, we have declared both as null, right? So basically this column can accept null. That's why we have designed this table. Now let's dive into the coalesce example, how we can use coalesce over here. So let me just delete this, let me come over here and let me take out the example. Just a minute. Okay. Okay. Now let's look into the first example. As I said, we will be looking into four scenarios. The first one is, the default fallback value, or basically if something is null, it has to be replaced with something, because we need to handle nulls carefully in our queries, right? Otherwise it will result in error if not handled properly on the front end side, right? So it's better to handle from the back end side itself, right? So let's say if I go ahead and run this query, so if you can see, we are fetching ID, full name, email, mobile, and we are fetching again email and mobile, but this time using isNull. So how isNull will work? It takes two parameters, and if email is null, then it will return mobile, right? If email is null, if mobile is also null, then it will return null. But let's take the next example. For example, the output of this, you can see over here that if email is there, right, in the second row, see email is not there, so it went to the second, which is mobile, and it returned mobile number, right? And see this example, if email is null, it went to mobile, mobile is also null, so it returned null, right? But look at the coalesce. Here we have more flexibility actually. So we can specify more than two parameters. Isnl can only take two parameters. Here we can pass more than two parameters, right? So here we are passing email, mobile, and some default value which says no contact details, right? So if email is null, it will go to mobile. If mobile has value, it will return the mobile number, right? If email is null, if mobile is also null, then it will go to this default value and default value will be returned. Let's understand this with this table example. See the record number 2. Here email is null, mobile number has some value, so this will return, the coalesce will return mobile number, the second value. In this scenario, the coalesce will work as it is, as is null function. Now let's consider this row as example. And here email is null, it went to mobile, again mobile is null, then it went to the default value, which is no contact details, right? So this is the first case where you want to replace your null values with something, right? So this is the first case of coalesce to handle null, right? Now the second case, now in your project, there will be often need where you need to display users and their roles, not in just a tabular or one by one by row format. Sometimes you may need to have it in a comma separated format, right? So there coalesce, using coalesce will be a important thing, right? So let's understand this example. So I have created a function called dbo fn get user roles. It is accepting user id, as input, and it returns in turn whatever roles are there for that user as a comma separated string. Right. So let me go ahead and run this for user role 1. Right. So if you observe, user 1 has two roles, admin and editor. Right. And if we wanna have this query for every user, then what we can do, very simple, we can run a query on user master table. That we are taking id, full name, and then we will be passing the id, basically user id, into this function as an input name, and it will give us the desired result. Let me go ahead and run this. So we have one first user, Elias Johnson, who has role admin and editor. Second, we have Bob as editor. Third, Charlie as admin. And for next three, we don't have any role, so it was written as blank. Right. So this is an again a very nice case where you will be required to present data in this format, comma separated data. Then you can use COALESCE. Now let's look at into the third example, third interesting case. you know so over here, I have created one stored procedure. So stored procedure is returning user data based on the input, mobile number or email. But remember, we designed the table in such a way that in our application, user can log in either using mobile or either email. So whenever we want to create some login sp or some other sp where we need to pass these both parameter, right? It is, there can be a case where someone is using email, someone is using mobile, right? So we need to return the data based on that logic. So here what we have done, first thing, important thing is we have marked these both parameters as optional parameter, right? So we have written null. So if we pass this parameter, then it will consider this parameter. If we don't pass, then also it will not generate error, because stored procedure can accept null parameters, right? And over here, if you look at this, what we have done, we are checking mobile number. If mobile number is passed, then we will check the mobile number, because remember, COALESCE, the way COALESCE work is it returns the first not null value. So if there is something in mobile number, this will return that. So let's say we have passed mobile number. So over here, this coalesce function from here to here will return the mobile number. Now that mobile number we checked with the left hand side. Left hand side we have is the column name mobile, right? So if we have that mobile number in the database, it will give us the data. If we don't have, then it will not give the data, right? So let's take an example. So let's see what we have over here. So these are the users we have, right? So now in the first example, we are passing just the mobile number and we are passing the email as null. Then what will happen? See, it gives me the data, right? In the second example, I am passing the email and mobile number I am passing as null. Then also it gives me the data. And let's say I am passing both, then what will happen? Then also it is giving me the data. So if you see this, with coalesce, we just we were able to write just two lines of where statement. Ideally, if we don't use coalesce, then we would have combination of 2 multiply by 2, 4 conditions, 4 if basically we will have to write. Let's say if mobile is null, then just take email in where condition. If email is null, email has value, mobile is null, then just take mobile, like that way we will have to make 4 combination of mobile has value, email doesn't have value, mobile doesn't have value, email have value, right? Both do not have value and both have values, right? So based on that, we will have to change our where statement. But using coalesce, we can make it very simple and readable. And so this is a very nice use case of a coalesce. And let me explain this via a practical example. you know if you are a fan of IPL, then we are at the page of where IPL matches and where IPL schedule is displayed, right? So if you want to design such screen, right, then coalesce will be a handy tool for you. For example, let's see, if I go ahead and select team over here, so I will get all the matches of this particular team where Kolkata Knight Riders is involved, basically. See, Kolkata, Kolkata Knight Rider, right? So basically, if I am passing only the venue, only the team name, it consider only team name into the where condition. Now, if I pass both team name and the venue, which is Kolkata, right? So again, I have result where team one of the team is Kolkata and the match was played at Kolkata Eden Garden, right? See, everywhere it is Kolkata Eden Garden, and one of the team is the Kolkata Knight Rider. Now let's say I don't want to pass the team name. I want to make it all, and I just want to pass location name. So I am just passing Mumbai over here. So it is ignoring team, right? And it is just taking the venue as Mumbai. For example, let's say we have we have every match over here listed at Wankhede, where Mumbai and Delhi Capital, Mumbai and Gujarat. Let me take Ahmedabad example actually, because Mumbai is a home ground for Mumbai, so Mumbai has played many matches over there. But let's take Ahmedabad, right? So we have taken Ahmedabad, and now let's see, it's Gujarat, but there will be, see, see this match, Punjab and Mumbai. Even the Gujarat has not played over there. It is listed over here. So basically, point over here is, if you want to design a screen where you want to give filters to the users, and the filters are optional actually. If you can pass one of them, you can pass all of them, or you don't want to pass any one of them, right? So for example, over here I say clear filter. In that case, I will have every match and every ground, right? So we did the same kind of thing with email and mobile number. Now let me take you the example of this null and null, right? So basically I am not passing email also and not passing mobile number also. In that case, it should give me all result. So these are all users. So this IPL example was a similar case, that if I don't pass anything, give me all. If I pass anything, then whatever passed, based on, you filter the record on that, right? So this is a very nice example. Another example is when you go on an e-commerce website, you search for something, and on the left hand side or on the top you will get lot of filters, right? So if you select filters based on price or brand or color, right, those filters will be applied. But if you don't select anything, then it will give you everything, right? So that is another example where COALESCE can be used in the background for to query your data, right? Now let me move to another example, the last one, right? Now let me run this query and explain you what it is actually, what was the need. So if you see this, here we are displaying a person, a user, and if that person has a particular role or not. If that person has a role, then we are marking it as 1. If that person or that user does not have the role, we are marking it as 0. So if you see this first record, Elias Johnson, he is admin, yes. He is editor, yes. And he is not a viewer, right? Similar way, Bob Smith is admin, no, he is not an admin, he is an editor, right? For Charles Ray, he is an admin, he is not a editor, not a viewer. And for rest remaining, those don't have any role, right? So basically, you wanna, again, you don't want to display the result in one by one row, you want to pivot the result, right? So in cases of pivot, coalesce will be again a very handy tool, where we are pivoting the role name and displaying 0 or 1 in uh, as a, and we are taking role as a column, and we are displaying 0 and 1 to indicate whether that person or user has that role or not, right? So here we are using coalesce, and if I go ahead and run this again, right, then this is the result set. So to understand this query, you can pause the video and look at this query, right? So these were the 4 interesting cases of coalesce. Now let's move on to the on an interview question that you will be asked often in the interview, that what is the difference between is null and coalesce, because primarily if we see, they both kind of replace just null value with some other value, right? But let's dive into it deeply. So EASNULL takes only 2 parameters. COALESCE takes more than 2 parameter, and it can max up to go up to 254. So if we see the first query, so here we have only 2 parameter. While here we can specify, we can add up more parameters here also. We can keep on adding something like this, right? Now next is EASNULL. Return type of EASNULL function will be the type of your first parameter. So in this case, So and let's talk about COALESCE. In COALESCE, the return type of the data would be the precedent most, you know, the highest precedent type from all the parameters. So basically is null, there are two parameters. First is, let's say, varchar, and second is nvarchar. Then the return type of is null will be varchar, because the first parameter, it takes the first parameter type. In case of coalesce, it will take the highest precedence. Let's say coalesce, we can specify more than 2 3 4 5 parameters, right? So the internal engine will evaluate which data type of these all parameters are, and based on that it will determine what will be the output of coalesce. For example, it will use this precedence, data type precedence, to follow. Let's say if you have a parameter with float, if you have a parameter with decimal, and if you have parameter with varchar, then obviously coalesce will return float, the one which with the highest precedence in type. Let's say we have nvarchar, and let's say we have varchar as a coalesce inputs, right? We have only two parameters, so in that case it will return nvarchar, because that comes on top the varchar. So remember this sequence. Again, you can pause the video and try to remember this precedence. Right. So basically, isNull returns the data type, which is the data type of your first parameter, and coalesce returns the data type that is highest in precedence of all past parameters. Right. Now let's take next example. Next difference. So coalesce is more flexible and in chaining multiple fallbacks values. So basically, if you have logic where you want to check something and replace with something, again you want to check the another something and replace with something, then coalesce will be a handy tool, because isNull only takes two parameters, while coalesce takes more than two parameters, right? And you can consider coalesce as a switch statement in C Sharp or Java, right? There will be case 1 2 3, and there will be a default case, right? And with use, one key thing to remember over here is, whenever you are using coalesce, make sure you have the last value as the fallback value. If there is nothing, then it should return something, right? The way we have, let me take you to the example of how we have used that over here. Let's just consider these three only. So here we are trying to replace email with mobile. Then mobile, if mobile is also null, then it will be replaced with the no contact details. So before this, no contact details, if there are 10 more values and they all are null, then this no contact details will be returned. So basically, this coalesce will always return something, it will not return null. So it becomes a better choice in case you don't want to return null, right? Because is null, if second parameter is null, it will return null, right? Let's move to the next one. Again, I explained this point, that is null, if the second parameter is null, it will result in null value. While coalesce, a good practice is always specify the default value, so it will always return that default value, and we will have always value in that uh, coalesce return, right? The next difference is, coalesce is an ANSI standard, so we will find coalesce function in other RDBMS also, like MS SQL, uh, Oracle, right? PostgreSQL, right? But isNull over here is specific to MS SQL, Microsoft SQL, right? Because if we go to MySQL, there is a function called isNull in MySQL, but that does not work the way it works in MS SQL. There it works like isNull, it checks whether the value of a particular column, expression, or variable is null or not, and it returns boolean, right? It does not replace it with something. So in MySQL, we have a function called if null that serves as is null in MS SQL. If null will be used to replace, if something is null, then replace with something. Then if null will be used. Right. Now last but not the least, and very important thing when you are working with is null and coalesce in your SQL database, right? So you need to understand that, zero, blank, space, null, and null within the text, right? These all are not same, these all are different. So learners, basically get confused with this. Okay, zero, it has nothing. No, zero is not nothing. 0 is not nothing. 0 is a value, right? It is not null. Again, space is a value. It is not null. Blank, which is nothing in single quote, is also a value. It is not null. And null within a single quote, that is also a value. It is not null. DB null basically, right? So remember these tips when you work on queries. So I hope you learned something new today in SQL. And thanks for watching this video. See you in the next video.